All right, so let's jump right into it. So the first game I want to talk about, this might not be in the order that they were played. We got the Browns' stunning 48-37 win over the Steelers. I think that one was a shocker. I mean, I called it in a sense. I'm not gonna lie, but that was just a fun game from the start. They jumped up 28 zip on them in the first quarter. I think stunned without Stefanski calling the plays or at the helm that they just came out here and dominated the Steelers. You got any thoughts on this one?
Honestly, it was the first quarter of that game was probably the most fun I had the whole day. No one expected that. The first snap going over Big Ben's head for a touchdown for the Browns. Then they get a pick right after that. They go down, they hit Landry for a touchdown. Boom! Before you know it, it was 14-0. You blink again, it was 28-0. Big Ben turning the ball over a bunch. The Browns doing it without Kevin Stefanski. It was really fun to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know they got a tough slate coming up this weekend, but maybe they can keep that magic going if Baker wakes up feeling dangerous again this next weekend like he did this past weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun game start to finish. I mean, I hope it's not the end for Ben. Could be, but we'll see. Next thing we're going to move on to. You
I
touched
want to.
upon.
I don't feel bad for the Steelers though
No, no, absolutely
at
not. With the
all.
whole,
Well,
I love Juju, but he kind of asked for it with the Browns. The Browns, you know what I mean? And that was kind of karma. So
I mean, they had a tough end of the year. They were not. They started off 11-0, but they were not. They were not even a top 4 or 5 team in the league this year. Kind of the way when the season ended up, in my opinion. And
yeah.
they came out and they absolutely laid an egg at night. So credit to the Browns. That was a really fun one. I thoroughly enjoyed that game.
All right, so next game we're talking about, you briefly touched upon it, Saints 21-9 over the Bears. I think the big takeaway from this game was the Nickelodeon broadcast. I don't know if you tuned in. I know I checked in for a little bit.
I tried. I really did try. I turned it on in the beginning, and I just didn't. I didn't love the vibes. I wanted to go listen to Jim Nantz and Tony Romo talk actual football. So
You
I
didn't
gave
like
it.
the slime in the end zones?
You know what? I didn't even get to that point. I watched like up until kickoff on Nickelodeon. Then I was like, I need to hear Tony. I had to
Yeah.
switch over.
So I will say in what could be Mitch
But
Trubisky.
I do like what they were doing, though. I do think it was cool that they're trying to reach, the younger generation a little bit. And I definitely think it was a cool experiment. And I don't doubt that they'll do it again at some point.
Well, I think the big thing is, in what could be Trubisky's last game as a Bear, he did take home Nickelodeon MVP trophy. Something you can't take away from him. I mean, something Mahomes doesn't have, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have, Mitch Trubisky does. So now we're moving on. We got the Ravens 20, Titans 13, a game that we both predicted the Ravens to go in and win. I mean, they were the betting favorite, but nonetheless on the road, 5 seed. So I think that was a big win. Lamar doing Lamar things. He had the nice rushing game. So I think the Ravens are rolling right now, and I expect them to continue to play well deep into these playoffs.
Yeah, I was probably rooting for the Titans. I know I picked the Ravens to win the game. I was probably rooting for the Titans, and when they got up 10-0, I was like, "Oh, here we go. Titans look legit." Ravens stormed back. My big takeaways from this game was that the Ravens defense was awesome. They absolutely locked up Derrick Henry, who has been an absolute phenom, a monster, just wrecking it all year, just crushing it. But they found a way to lock him up. I think they held him like 40 yards, which was awesome. And their defense is playing unbelievable. I loved them stomping on the logo. You know what? The Titans went into the Ravens home and they stomped on their logo. So you know what? They had it coming. I absolutely love that. I hope they go up to Buffalo this week. And I hope they stomp on logos up in Buffalo. Why not? Just keep it going. Be the bad boys of this playoffs. Their defense looks unbelievable. Lamar, he's playing out of his mind again. He just hits other gears when he's running. No one's as athletic as him on the field. So I think they're in a good spot right now. And, that was another good game. We had some good games this weekend.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments from the weekend, I don't know about yours, even though the Bucks did beat Washington 31-23, just super impressed with Taylor Heineke. He came in for, behind Alex Smith, and then obviously Haskins got cut, and he just balled out. I think he went for 306 yards in the air, a touchdown and a pick, but then he also rushed for another touchdown. Just a great game from a guy filling in. He's got a great story. I think he played FCS football, bounced around in preseasons, whatever it may be. Went to the XFL, wasn't even a starter. I think he was on the Battlehawks behind Jordan Tiamu. And then now he comes in, starts a playoff game, has a great game, almost outduels Tom Brady. But either way, just an excellent performance by Taylor Heineke. So that was a great moment, I thought, from the weekend.
Yeah, he was fun to watch, and I think what he did was he solidified himself a backup job in this league for a couple
Yeah.
years to come. I think he's definitely secured a spot for himself at least next year in the foreseeable future. The kid came in. He's probably never going to be a starter in the league, but I think he's a guy you could throw in who's kind of just like, whatever, I'll go in there, I'll ball out, I'll play. So I definitely think he has a job in the future for sure. I think you got to credit Tampa Bay's O-line, right? They kind of Chase Young, they held him at bay all week. Chase Young was yapping that he was going to, come in. He wants Tom Brady. He's going to get Tom Brady. And you know what? He really didn't. Their O-line came to play. It was a fun game. Nonetheless, I think the Washington football team should be excited about their future. I think they got a good core. I think, they're one quarterback away. And I think you got a good backup in the future, hopefully, for them in Taylor Heineke. I don't think it's anything that the Washington football team should hang their hat on, right? They were 7-9. No one expected them to win, and they came in and they did show out a little bit. They played well. So I definitely think in the future, maybe NFC East best team going forward in the next couple of years, I think.
Yeah, who knows there. So then we moving on to probably the biggest upset of the weekend, the Rams 30, Seahawks 20. They went into the game with John Wolford as their starter, and then Jared Goff as like an emergency backup. He was injured, but was active. And then you saw Wolford on the designed QB run, got hit in the neck by Jamal Adams. I don't think there's any foul intent there, but unfortunately Wolford did have to go to the hospital due to the neck injury, and then that forced Jared Goff into the game. Crazy that they didn't dress 3 quarterbacks, that Blake Bortles wasn't active. So it was really just Jared Goff left, an injured Jared Goff just coming off thumb surgery on his throwing hand. And, he did what he had to do to get the win. And Aaron Donald went out with an injury. So they really did this shorthanded, and that was just a very impressive win. Russell Wilson didn't really look too good. And, it is nice to see. I don't want to be bitter, but we do get a better draft pick. That was huge for us. That catapulted us into the, I think, like 18 to 24 range. And then we discussed that Browns win. That bumped the Jets up to 23, and that's where we'll have our second pick this year. So all around, just a nice win for the Rams.
Yeah, I never root for the Rams, so I always kind of root against them. So I was happy to see them lose, even though I did.
You mean the
them.
Seahawks?
Excuse me, the Seahawks. Yeah, I never root for the Seahawks, and now Jamal Adams gives me even more reason to not root for them. I did pick them to win, so I was wrong there, but I was happy to be wrong. Kind of feel bad for Wolford there. Kind of had his moment to shine, and it was short-lived. When he was getting stretchered out, you're thinking like, oh gosh, this kid got to live his dream playing in the NFL, but was it worth it if the kid broke his neck? But I think he's going to be all right. I think Goff played a gritty game. He obviously he didn't look too good. He couldn't really grip the football. You try throwing a football with a broken thumb, it's probably not that easy. So I think he came in there and had I guess gutsy game. He had a pretty gutsy game. He won the game, and I think the credit really should go to McVay, right? Sean McVay getting it done with a quarterback with one hand essentially, and it wasn't even his good hand. And he came in there and outcoached Pete Carroll and came away with the win. And like you said, it was probably the most surprising win of the game. I think going into it, I predicted the Seahawks to win by like 2 scores. So I was dead wrong there.
We both said if we're betting, this is the game we're hammering. This is why I don't bet.
Yep, me too.
The first game of the weekend, we didn't touch upon it. Bills 27, Colts 24. Josh Allen up and down, but Josh Allen's learning how to win games. Like, he is that team, and it is an impressive ascent in his career. It felt like, as a Jets fan, it was always Darnold, Allen, and they're kind of on the same career trajectory. And then just out of nowhere, Allen exploded. They put the right pieces around him. They got him the offensive line. And they're moving on to the divisional round, and they're a real threat. And I think, many people expect them in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great win by them. I was rooting for the Colts, obviously, in division Bills. I didn't want to see them win. But I do think for, the NFL's purposes, I think the Bills winning is better just because they are the better team going forward, for sure. So I think it is good that they win. I wanted to see Phillip Rivers come out on top, but Josh Allen is a stud. So that got a couple good slates this weekend coming up because of it. And I think that'll be a good transition into what we got going on this weekend.
Yeah, real briefly before we go on to the next games, I think it's interesting looking at these games. Like, now that I'm just looking at the outcomes, I think the Bills and the Saints were the only 2 higher seeds to advance this week, which is pretty crazy. And I think I saw something online that there's only like 1 or 2 3 seed. I mean, 1 or maybe even 0 3 seeds have won in the last like 3 or 4 years, which is crazy. So I guess that's like that 5-12 matchup in the NCAA tournament that you don't want. But so moving on to this week.
I'd like to be a 3 seed, so I don't want to hear
that. Moving on to this week, Saturday in the NFC, we got the Rams at Packers. We have the Packers as 7-point favorites. For me, again, I'm going to doubt the Rams. They have an amazing defense. I think Brandon Staley's doing great things with that defense. But with, the status of Goff, I'm sure he'll play, and Aaron Donald up in the air. They're banged up either way. I'm going with Aaron Rodgers and that high-flying offense. They got the Smith bros on the edge. They're going to get a lot of pressure on Goff. I'm going Packers here, both against the spread and straight up.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm going Packers here. Aaron Rodgers has been, in my opinion, the MVP of the season for sure. He's playing on a different level this year. They drafted the quarterback. I think it kind of lit a little fire under his butt. And Rodgers has been absolutely lighting it up, and I expect nothing less than that this weekend. I think he's gonna go out there and just absolutely light up the Rams. The only way the Rams win is if McVay finds another way to pull a rabbit out of a hat against the Packers here. And you know what? I'm not going to say he can't, right? He proved us wrong last weekend. He definitely has the opportunity to do so again, and we'll see what they come up with. But for sure, I am on the Packers. I am a huge Aaron Rodgers fan this year. I think he has been doing phenomenal things.
It's a revenge tour.
Yeah, revenge tour. And they're flat out the better team. I think if you just match them up. So I'm going with the better team and the better quarterback this weekend. And I'm taking the Packers for sure.
Yep. Now moving on to the Saturday game in the AFC. I'd probably say this is my favorite game of the weekend. You have the Ravens going to the Bills. The Bills are 2.5-point favorites. I mean, going into this year, that would be an unfathomable line, I think, right? Like Ravens at Bills in the playoffs. You have the Bills as the favorite. But I'm going to go Ravens here, even though the Bills are rolling. I just think Lamar, he got that first playoff win. I think he's going to keep it going, and I think he's going to pull out a big win up there in Orchard Park.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun one for sure. Both quarterbacks are mobile. Both quarterbacks are playing at an exceptionally high level. I'm with you as well on this one. I am going Ravens as well. Once again, I do think the Bills will match up better with the Chiefs if they were to win this game, but I do think the Ravens are going to pull it out. The Ravens defense has been, playing great, and Lamar has been balling out. And like I said, I want to see him go stomp on the Bills logo this weekend. I hope they keep stomping on logos. I think if they stomp on logos every week, they're winning the Super Bowl.
I think that only happened because of the beef in the regular season against the Titans, but we'll see. But
we'll start another one.
Yeah. So in the AFC, our other game on Sunday, we have the Browns at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 10-point favorites. As hard as I'm going to be rooting for this Browns team, I think they have a good underdog story. I just don't see them beating the Chiefs. I think Mahomes is going to have an amazing game, and I expect them to cover and to win straight up.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm going to switch it up, right? Look, I think the Chiefs are definitely going to win this game. If I was betting on this game, I would say the Chiefs are going to win. But my pick, I'm going with the Browns. They're going to keep that magic going. Baker's going to wake up feeling dangerous again. And that is going to be the mega upset of the century, which probably will never happen. I do think the Chiefs will win. But I'm going with my heart here, and I'm going with the Brownies.
All right. I want you to go all in with that, though. I don't want you saying, like, I think the Chiefs are going to win, but I'm picking the Browns.
I'm all in. Let's go Browns, dude.
There you go. I was all in on the Browns last week.
I'm all in.
I'm gonna hold off here. I'm gonna go Chiefs. But and then
you're a much smarter man than I am.
And then in the NFC, our last game of the week is the Bucks at the Saints. Saints 3-point favorites. I'm actually going Bucks here. I think Tom Brady is going to get it done. I still think Drew Brees is playing at a pretty high level, but I just don't think his physical skills are where Tom Brady's are at right now. And I think Brady and Arians are going to find a way to go to the Saints and win this game.
Yeah, this is the Grandpa Bowl, both quarterbacks super old. So I think it's going to be cool in the sense that you're going to watch two old dudes, be in a shootout here in the playoffs. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair, and I'm going to go with the Saints on this one. I think Alvin Kamara was a little bit quiet last week, and I think he's going to have a big weekend coming up here. I'm going to go with the Saints by 10.
Wow. This kind of feels like Thanksgiving morning, right? When the two dads in their mid 40s suit up a QB and just try to outsling each other, just throw the rock around. I also saw, did you see on Brady's Twitter? Someone put it on the History Channel. So
that was really fun. Hey, well, like they did the Nickelodeon game, they should do a History Channel game and just have the guy who does the Planet Blue Earth and all that. They should have him narrate the game. That would be pretty funny.
Exactly. So,
I'm going with the Saints.
All right. So you were at 3-3 last week in the wild card. I was at 5-1. Let's see if you could catch me, because you did make a couple different picks than me. So we'll see how that goes. But,
one of them's a stretch, but let's go Cleveland. I'm in it with you, baby.
Hey, there you go. Believe land. But all right, so I think we're talking about big Ohio football games. I think that leads us nicely into the national championship last night. You had Ohio State as the 3 seed in the college football playoff, playing the big bad number 1 Alabama, undefeated Heisman winner. They had running back of the year Najee Harris. You had Mac Jones lighting it up, Heisman finalist. Like I mentioned, Devonta Smith, Heisman winner. Patrick Surtain, SEC Player of the Year. They're just absolutely loaded at every direction you go. Even their backups would be high-quality starters at most of their Power 5 schools right now. So do you have any big takeaways from I should say, I believe the final score was 52-24 before we get into it. Do you have any big takeaways from last night's game?
Yeah, I'll start with Ohio State first. I don't think it would be fair to judge Justin Fields off this game. He was clearly injured. He was clearly grimacing many times with his hip pointer. But I think Bama's offense is the best offense, quite possibly, of all time. You rattled off the three-headed monster there: Najee Harris, Mac Jones, and Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith he was on a different planet. Yeah, it was just too easy for him. He was just clearly the best player on the field. Well deserved that he was the Heisman. I'm going to go with, they're probably the best offense of all time. Bama was too good. Bama was too good for Ohio State. It didn't help Ohio State. It did not help Ohio State that Trey Sermon got hurt so early in the game. Not to say Master Teague didn't come in and play well. He had 2 touchdowns when he came in, but they needed that dual threat. And Trey Sermon, I think, has been the better back. So it definitely hurt them that they were out, missing a couple guys on their D-line, but these are not excuses. I think even with a fully healthy team, I still think Bama would have took that game, no problem. Yeah. They're unbelievable. They're the best coach team in the land. They get the best athletes every year. So once again, I credit to them. And I'm going to say best offense of all time.
It's definitely up there. I just truly felt watching that game, every drive, you just didn't expect Ohio State to come up with a stop. You know what I mean? It was just too easy. Mac Jones, 454 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. Devonta Smith has 12 catches, 215 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the first half. He goes out with that finger injury, obviously. But it just felt like even when Ohio State was in the game, you didn't feel like they were in the game. When it was 14-14 and then whatever it escalated to. I will say, when they were hanging in there, I was getting major from Friday Night Lights, Eric Colmer vibes from Master Teague. He came in, you had the big Trey Sermon injury. I was like, Boobie Miles. I was like, you know what? Maybe Master Teague could come in and just instant impact. He had the 2 touchdowns, but then that just wasn't enough.
Not a fair analogy. Master Teague has played a bunch. He's been a pivotal part of their offense. He's had games where he's had like $170. Colmer was like the 3rd or 4th string running back in that game. So I see where you're going. I don't agree with that analogy, but I totally get where you're coming from with that. But big players show up in big games, right? Your Heisman finalists, all 3 of them. Najee Harris, 3 touchdowns. Devonta Smith, 3 touchdowns. Mac Jones had a great game. And wherever Devonta Smith goes, I think it's personally he's going to end up in Philly.
I think Dolphins.
Okay. Well, if he goes 3, then that's even better for him. I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see him in division. But wherever he goes, they should incorporate that play where he comes in motion and then goes back the other way for that because that play was unguardable. Unguardable.
I think one thing kind of getting lost in this is, everyone, the spectacle was on Justin Fields, obviously, right? Like, could he come in, win this game? Could he solidify himself as the second pick? My take on this, it's really just Alabama was so good, and he was playing hurt, but I don't think it's that big of an excuse. But I don't think he played bad. In the first half, he couldn't get it going. In the second half, I think he had, a bunch of solid drives. He threw the touchdown. He had a couple nice runs. He had that one drive where he threw basically 2 touchdowns. One was bobbled and reversed, and then the other one, I thought Olave got the foot in. They didn't call it a touchdown. But just overall, 17 to 33, 193 or 194 yards. He had a touchdown pass, 67 yards rushing. So decent game. My take, from a Jet standpoint is this. Whatever Joe D, say Joe D was set on taking Justin Fields going into the game, I don't think his performance changed that. But if he was iffy on Justin Fields going into the game, I don't think Justin Fields' performance obviously didn't solidify himself as the second pick last night. But I do think there's a shot. I think it's much less likely now, though, for Justin Fields' Jets marriage.
All right, let me ask you this, though. Do you think it would have been a better game if it was Clemson versus Bama?
No, I don't think it would have been much different. I just don't think Clemson's defense was any better. You know what I mean? I think they would have had fits with that 3-headed monster you mentioned. Even it's like the Bama number 2 receiver, the Bama number 3 receiver. You got John Mechie the third, just open on every play. It's insane how good that offense is, how efficient that offense is.
Well,
I think this was Bama's year. I don't think anyone was stopping them, to be honest.
And I think where Ohio State went wrong is they ran a 4-4. They kept linebackers on the field, and Bama was just absolutely taking advantage of that, making their linebackers try to guard their faster guys. And
was that 20? I saw 20 on every play, but he just couldn't keep up.
They ran 4 linebackers every play. Yeah. So that clearly probably wasn't the game plan you want to go into with that. Yeah. But hey, that D coordinator probably knows a lot more than I do, so he probably had his reasoning for it. But I definitely would have probably had a couple more D-backs on the field.
Yeah, exactly. But now I feel like, that game was kind of a dud. There's not really much we could dive into with that. We could talk about Justin Fields or the Jets all day, but that's not really, you know what I mean? This was more of a live reaction to the game.